you come across as too intimidating. Men get intimidated by strong women. No, a strong, confident man is not going to be intimidated by that. He's going to be inspired by that. Welcome to Love Chat with the Love Twins. We have one of those topics that I absolutely love talking about is one of those things that Michelle and we talk about this a lot with our clients. We hear about this a lot because I would say this is one of those things that's happening in the background. It's that stuff that sometimes you're doing and you don't even realize that you are doing it, especially as a high-powered or strong or very goal-driven, right? We say highly driven woman. This is something you may not know that you're doing. So tonight's topic is, what if the real you is exactly who he's looking for? And why we're talking about this is because so many women, especially women who have built very full lives for themselves, women who they're not just sitting by waiting for life to happen, right? They've been out there, they've been creating a life that they love, still working on it, right? And there's this quiet fear that's in the background. And again, I'm telling you, you may realize it, you may not, but maybe I've heard something in the back of your mind, whether you pushed it away or not, that says, maybe I'm just too much. Maybe I'm too much for men. I'm just too strong. My personality is a little too much. Maybe I need to tone it down a little bit. Maybe you got feedback that said, oh, you come across as a little bit intimidating. Maybe you've gotten that feedback from men, and you might have gotten it from women. I literally had a client the other day say, oh no, my friend said that because he knows that I'm a business owner and he knows that I make more money. That means that, no, that means he knows that. A strong, confident man is not going to be intimidated by that. He's going to be inspired by that. So maybe one of the thoughts you've had is, you know what, if I can't be myself, if I have to be fake, I'd rather be alone, right? So if you've ever thought anything like that, you are absolutely in the right place, because I want to say something. I'm going to say it slowly, and I want you to hear me because this is so important. A lot of women don't realize that they are editing themselves when it comes to love. They're editing themselves. And it's not because they want to be fake. They actually want to love, and they want to be seen and accepted and loved for who they are. And so it's not that they want to be fake, and it's not that they don't want to be who they truly are. But somewhere along the way, whether somebody told you something could have been when you were 5, tone it down. You want too much. You're a little bit too much for me. Maybe you heard that, right? Or maybe you heard from a man, like you're too strong. Or a friend, like I said, says you come across as too intimidating. Men get intimidated by strong women. Whatever it was, somewhere along the way, you may have started to think that being fully yourself, 100% who you are, is a little bit too risky. Now, the twist is, when women are editing themselves, that editing can absolutely, it can 100% lead you to be in a relationship. You can actually get in a relationship, but not necessarily with the man who's the right match. And maybe you don't understand what I mean when I say editing. So I'm going to explain it, because like I said, when something is in the blind spot, you don't see it, you don't hear it, you don't even know that it's there. Here's what editing looks like in real life. In real life, you soften your opinions. Maybe you don't quite say what you think. Now there's a way, and we teach a way to communicate your opinion without having to make somebody else wrong, or having to force your opinion on somebody else, or even want them to agree with it. It takes something, but there is a way to do that you can share your opinion in a way that doesn't require anything from anyone else. Another way that editing can happen is you minimize your needs. You don't want to be high maintenance. You're easygoing. You're going to be easygoing, right? You might laugh or go along with things that you're actually not okay with, especially at the beginning, like, yeah, maybe it was an inappropriate comment that was meant to be a joke, but it doesn't feel appropriate to you. Or you stop yourself from saying what you actually think or want, because again, you don't want to be high maintenance. You don't want to come across as too much. You like if it was a knob, you turn down parts of yourself and parts of your personality that are bold, that are playful, that are direct, maybe the things that you're passionate about or that you feel intensely about, because you're trying to be more palatable. You want to be, especially if it's somebody, let's be real, that you're really attracted to, right? That you really don't want to risk that he's not going to be as into you as you are into him. It's subtle. Sometimes you know that you're doing, and sometimes you don't. And at first, like every habit that you have, at one point, it probably worked at least once, right? I often use the analogy of the child who's having a temper tantrum in the middle of the store. I promise you that worked at least once. That's either the first time or it worked at least one other time. And even if it hasn't worked other times, we keep doing it, right? Thinking like, think of the jackpot machine, right? I'm going to keep pressing this lever because eventually I might hit the jackpot, right? So at first it can feel like, oh, this toned down version of me is actually working. But over time, it is very difficult to sustain. And you will find that over time, that attraction, it fades. And it isn't because you weren't enough or you were too much, right? It's because the relationship or the dating experience, if it's happening before it turns into a relationship, it's being built around a version of you that's not the real you. So, like I said, it could work for a while, it could work for years. It's going to become exhausting to continue trying to remember to be someone that you're not. And also, there's going to be a part of you that's going to wonder, what is it that he really likes about me? Because he can't like you, he can't fall in love with you, and he definitely can't stay in love with you if you are not there. He's falling in love with the edited version, whatever version is being presented. So if you've ever, let's just, it's Tell the Truth Tuesday. We always say that on these Tuesdays, right? If you've ever caught yourself toning something down to keep a man comfortable, right? Or to not come across as too much, or, to seem like, you're chill, you're easygoing, go ahead and write TD for tone down. Like, I sometimes do that, right? If you're willing to be honest with yourself, especially if you're very attracted to the person and you want, everybody's on their best behavior. Everybody's on their best behavior when it comes to those first few dates, the first few interactions. It's okay to tell the truth. If you don't tell yourself the truth, how are you going to attract somebody who is honest, right? And somebody who's willing to be truthful with you. I know, because we want every single human being. It's every human being, not just women, and not just you. At the bottom, like when you get down to the root of it all, what we want to know is that we are liked, that we are seen, that we are loved, right? So don't make yourself wrong. It's something that happens, particularly if you're very, very attracted to someone, and or if you're highly invested. Like if you've already spent a lot of time and emotional connection and all of that with a person, it's very understandable. Okay, so let's talk about this, right? Because like I said, it can get exhausting. When you're not anchored into who you truly are, then you start using, and I don't only want to say relationships, and we call them dating interactions or dating dynamics, because it really isn't a relationship until it is, right? But before there's a relationship, you're interacting with someone, right? There's a dating experience. So when you're not anchored into who you truly authentically are, then you start using the dating dynamic, the validation from someone else, the validation from the relationship as a means of connection versus authentically connecting. So you're seeking outside validation instead of authentic validation and the validation that comes from within. So here's where you start trying to keep track of. Did he like that? Did he like when I say that? When I said that? Was that too much? Shoot. Is he going to be turned off? Should I have said it differently? And sometimes this is happening in the few minutes and sometimes hours between one text and another. You said something, right? You said something, or you had a conversation, the last conversation, and you haven't heard from him since then. And you're wondering, should I have said it differently? Did I say something that turned him off? Oh, how do I say it so that he responds? And then in the background, what's really going on is like, what happens? Did I say or do something wrong is really what's at the bottom of it. But if you go a layer or two deeper, it's, what if he doesn't like who I really am? What if I said something honestly and he didn't like that? That's the real question, right? So what happens when you're not being authentically yourself, or you're afraid to, you adjust. And a lot of women who are very, very confident in their careers, they'll turn on that work persona on a date. And that might be super cute at the beginning. But if you're a manager at work, I promise you can write this one down. A man doesn't want to be managed. And so if you're bringing that strong personality that works at work, I'm talking about, you get to be strong wherever you are. You are powerful and beautiful and lovable wherever you are and whoever you are. But you know what I'm talking about. You're in a boardroom, you're leading the meeting, you're about to ask for some investors to invest with you, or you're about to have someone hire you as their client, or you're on a job interview. There is a person that you become because you want to be what? Chosen. And so that's what I'm talking about. If you're turning that on and you're not allowing somebody to see the soft side of you, the real side of you, the I don't always get it right side of you, then you'll always wonder if they really like who you really are. So you adjust, right? And what happens internally is that it creates this misalignment, this inner feeling that you may or may not say to yourself, and you probably almost never say out loud, which is, why is it that I don't feel seen? Why is it that I just can't be myself? Why can't I be loved and accepted for who I really am? And for some women, and we find this a lot in women who are in unhappy relationships, is, why do I still feel like unseen and lonely even when I'm in a relationship? It's because there's something out of alignment, right? It's misaligned. And in dating and in relationships, it's because whether you consciously know it or not, your body knows that you don't feel like you're being seen and known and loved for yourself. It's the edited version that the other person is responding and reacting to. Okay. I call it the stand-in, right? The understudy, in a play, there's the lead actress, and then there's the understudy that's learning all of the lines, but she's not the lead actress. But if she needs to come in, she'll jump in, right? And so you don't want somebody falling in love with your stand-in. You want somebody falling in love with you. So let's do something really quickly together. I don't usually do this kind of thing on Love Chat, but I see that those of you who are here are actively, really actively engaged. So just for a moment, if you can, just go ahead and put your hand on your chest. I like to put on my heart, and just take a nice slow breath through your nose. And exhale, just release it through your mouth. And let's do one more. One more, because I know this can be a triggering conversation. One more breath. And just release it through your mouth. And just ask yourself, you do not have to put this in the chat. Just ask yourself, where have I been editing myself? Where have I been editing out parts of me, hiding them or pretending or amplifying other parts and dimming down these other parts of me? And again, no judgment, just noticing. Take another deep breath. And then ask yourself, what part of me wants to come back online? Maybe it's your honesty. And maybe you tone down your honesty because you haven't known how to express yourself honestly without maybe coming across as confrontational. But if you want your honesty, not the confrontation part, to come back online, acknowledge that. Maybe it's your standards. The standards you have for yourself, maybe you've lowered your standards or your boundaries a little, and it's time to bring those back online. Maybe it's your softness. You've been protecting yourself. You put this, armor on before you go online or before you go on a date because you're trying to protect your heart from getting hurt again. Do you want your softness to come back online? Maybe stuff has happened that's kind of shaken your confidence a little. You started to question yourself, like, is love even really for me? This just feels too hard. And what you want is to bring your authentic confidence back online. And maybe for you, it's your voice. Your voice has gotten you in trouble a few times. Maybe it's you feel that that's what caused the end of a relationship or what had somebody stop calling or texting. And you've toned down your voice and maybe you've completely put it on mute. Is it your voice, your authentic voice that wants to come back online? If you've identified something, and again, you don't have to put this in the chat, I invite you to remind yourself, I don't have to earn love. I don't have to do anything to earn love. I don't have to abandon myself, my real self, to earn love. It's a gentle reminder. If something about what we just did, you don't have to write, that you can write as much as you want. But if something inside of you, if you really felt something like you're back online, you're back in attunement with yourself, go ahead and put yes in the chat, right? Because it takes some courage. It takes authenticity, which is what we're talking about, to say, you know what? I didn't realize, but there was a part of me. There really was a part of me that I turned down or turned off or, took completely offline. It really does take beautiful courage, the willingness to be honest with yourself. And that's the kind of thing, that authenticity, that softness, that honesty, that will attract a man who is honest and authentic and real, right? So those of you who have been maybe afraid of attracting scammers, or you've been attracting men who just aren't who they are, just without judgment. I wish I could do this with each one of you one-on-one, right? Without judgment, just look to see, is there a part of me that's been not completely authentic? And maybe that's what's having me attract men who aren't really who they say they are. Not because you're blaming yourself, but because now we have an opportunity to turn it around. Okay, because now we're going to talk about what are some ways that you can stop this editing. First of all, the moment a woman fully owns and inhabits her authentic self, like I'm talking about, I embrace it, I embody it, I am who I am, and I love who I am. Once you truly, truly inhabit your authentic self, the moment a woman does that, love immediately starts to recalibrate. There is an energy that comes online, and all of a sudden that frequency starts to emanate. It starts to emanate from you. So I want you to hear me when I say this. Authenticity isn't risky or scary to the right man. Maybe to the insecure man, maybe to the man who isn't being true to himself either, but the right man is going to appreciate and admire that authenticity. It's clarifying. It helps him see who you really are. The right man does not feel confused by who you are. And those of you who were at Love Vision 2026, you heard both Michelle's husband and my husband say it. Is like I respect that clarity. I respect that authenticity. Even if it's sharing a boundary, like, look, I don't get physically intimate until I'm in a committed relationship. I don't go over someone's house that I'm not in a committed relationship with. And you're not saying it to get him. He'll know if you're trying to do that, by the way, to get him to to commit. It's just like, that's me. That's what's true for me. I know it's not, maybe may not be popular, but that's me. A man, the right man, will find that very alluring, at the very least intriguing, and will want to get to know you better, because not that many people are being that honest. So the wrong man, yeah, he'll benefit from you toning down and shrinking and not truly being yourself. But the moment you stop, the moment you turn on, you come back online with who you really are, and you show who you truly are, that kind of person, if it's the wrong man, he'll remove himself. He'll be like, nope, and probably make you feel badly about it. If it's the right man and you come online and you rise to your authenticity, he'll rise with you. He'll rise right along with you. So if the wrong man removes himself, stops calling, stops texting, says, I don't think this is, I don't think we're on the same page. I actually heard somebody say that a man said that to her. It's like, it's not a tragedy. Consider that it's a blessing, because that means that who you are being, your authenticity is working as a filter to filter out whatever is not a match for that. You're going to spend a lot less time with the wrong people when you're being yourself. So let me give you 3 quick signs that you're editing, and then I'm going to give you a couple things to do this week so you can really practice. Okay. So how do you know you're editing? You're rehearsing over and over again before you speak, because you're trying to control his reaction. You're trying to get him to say blank, get him to do, let me give actual examples instead of blank. I'm trying to get him to say that he wants to be in a relationship. I'm trying to get him to commit. I'm trying to get him to ask me out on the date. When you text first, you're trying to get him to respond, right? When you text first instead of allowing him to text you. So if you're rehearsing and if you're using ChatGPT, for the love of God, please stop criticizing and saying, or please stop complaining that you're attracting scammers if you cannot put a sentence together on a text or in a conversation without going to ChatGPT first. ChatGPT has its uses. It's very effective. But I'm going to tell you something. I know that some of us, some of the ladies here, and I'm not judging because I say us because that was me. I was ruining my marriage. My mouth almost cost me my marriage because I didn't know how to speak in a way that my husband could hear me. And so I was speaking through criticism, through getting louder, anything to try to get him to hear me and see me. And I had to learn how to communicate effectively. So I know that if you're doing that, it's because you're like, I don't want to mess up. I want to say things right. But if you keep attracting people who are not authentic, just look to see what are some of the, am I being authentic? Am I being 100% authentic? So it doesn't mean that you don't think, okay, am I saying this in a way that's honest and in a way that is respectful? That's different than trying to say things in a way that's going to get him to say or do something that you would like him to do. Okay. So that's one way that you can see if you're editing yourself. A second way is you feel drained after a conversation, after a date. You're emotionally exhausted. Why? Because you have been performing. Here I am. Please love me. Please choose me. And yeah, at the end of an hour or two, you're exhausted, right? Because performing, it's going to take energy that being yourself doesn't. Right? When you're being yourself, you can be present. You can be present enough to hear what's being said, see what's being shown, but you don't have to perform for someone. You're not on a job interview or on an audition. He's actually auditioning for the opportunity to be your date again. Okay, if it's on the first date and your date at all on a conversation. So lean into being yourself and know that you don't need to perform. And then the other thing is, if you talk yourself out of saying what you want or what you need because you are trying to be low maintenance, you don't want to be high maintenance, you don't want to seem like you're dramatic. And so when he says, well, why don't you come meet me in my town? And it's the first date or the second date, and you know that you don't want to drive an hour and a half, you're like, sure, I can do that. Instead of saying, I actually prefer to meet closer to where I live, especially when I'm first getting to know someone. Why? Why is that important? Number one, because it's the truth. Number two is because that shows that you are a woman who values herself enough to date safely. Now, you're not telling him he's a mass murderer or that you don't trust him. This is what I do when I'm getting to know someone. Notice how I didn't say you, right? I prefer to meet closer to where I live, especially when I'm first getting to know someone. That's a clear boundary. So you don't have to talk yourself out of your wants and your needs. You can say, for example, if you're getting to know someone in the conversation, I remember when I first started talking to Rick, we would talk for 7 hours, 5 hours, 3 hours. And some nights that didn't make me very effective the next day when I had to give a presentation. So I might say, I'm really enjoying this conversation and I hope we get a chance to continue it. I've got to get up early, so I need to call it a night. Notice my energy. I'm not telling him you're keeping me on the phone, making him feel bad, making myself feel bad. It's just, I really enjoy this, especially if you're not enjoying the conversation, leave that part out. But if you are, say, I'm really enjoying this conversation. I hope we get a chance to finish it. I do have to wake up really early. I've got a big day tomorrow. So I'm calling it a night early. And again, I hope we get to talk again. Super inviting. It's letting him know you're interested and you'd like to talk again. And it's authentic, right? So what can you do this week to make sure that you're not editing yourself? Number one, if you notice that you're stopping yourself or you're trying to change something and you're trying to make it so that the other person likes it, just pause before you say or do whatever it is you're going to do and say, okay, is this me or is this fear? Is this me speaking or is this my fear speaking? Is this me texting or is this my fear texting? So it takes a second. Let's say 5 seconds, right? Is it me or is it my fear? And if it's fear, don't let fear be the author of your relationship, right? And say, well, what is it that I really would like, prefer, or what is it that I really need? And then you say that without using, this is a lot of coaching that we give, and I'm going to give you a way that you can learn some of this, but just that question will at least have you interrupt the pattern of giving into the fear. And here's why this is super important. You don't become irresistible, like an absolutely irresistible woman, by toning yourself down. You don't. You become irresistible by being truly who you are. Authenticity is a magnet for what you want in a relationship. I promise you. Again, I keep going back to this event that we just had this past weekend, but both of our husbands said authenticity and confidence were the two most important things, and they could sense it from a profile. They could sense it in a conversation. Our husbands often take a look at the profiles. We have them look at it, of course, with the woman's permission, to see how it's registering on the man's side. And both of the men said, if they said it 10 times, I'm probably being conservative. Authenticity and confidence. The thing is, confidence, real, true confidence, is only powerful when you are being authentic. Otherwise, you're pretending, you're acting, you're performing. So remember this: a man can't fall in love with you or stay in love with you if you are not there. If a man only likes you when you're agreeable, or when you're saying the right thing, or when it's convenient, then he doesn't really like you. He's liking the edited version of you. So you want to start things off from the beginning with your beautiful, authentic self, right? So if you want real love, you get to be the real you. And until our hearts meet again, always remember that you are loved. The real you. You are loved. Bye for now.